Hello everyone, I'm Max. Welcome to Out of Spec Guides. Behind me is a Chevy Bolt from 2017. But don't be alarmed. If your car looks a little bit different, it's fine because these are all very similar. And in this video, I'm going to be doing a walkthrough with my friend Ryan, who actually owns this car from Out of Spec. So Ryan has had this car for a while, and he and I are going to walk you through how to do everything with it. Let's say you just got handed the keys to it, it's a rental, it's your friend's, or you just got one. Congratulations, it's a great car. We're going to go over how to start the car, how to drive it, how to charge it, just kind of get comfy with it, because the Bolt is not a fairly complicated car, but if it's your first time with an EV, there's a few things to learn. So let's get into it and have some fun. So the Bolt, unlike a lot of electric cars, doesn't have any kind of fancy aerodynamic door handles. And I think that's a good thing because it keeps it pretty simple. So you can see, here's what the key looks like, and you have your unlock, lock button, as well as an alarm that you can press. And so if I lock with the key, works as you would expect. Also, this Bolt is a Premier trim, but all Bolts have proximity keys where you can just press this. It'll lock and unlock all doors. So that's a really handy feature. It's on all four doors. All of these cars come with four doors, even though it's a small hatchback. It's actually pretty usable, so it's pretty sweet. Let me get in the driver's seat and show you what that looks like. All right, Ryan, I'm in the car with you. So how do you adjust everything as a driver in this car?
Yeah, of course. First things first, let's start up the car. So foot on the brake and press the power button right here. That's it. So we can start with the mirrors over here. There's a button for left and right. And you just press whichever one you want to press. There's a little light and you can move it around with the directional arrows. It's pretty straightforward. We've got our window controls. For the front, it's an automatic, so you can just press it once and it'll roll all the way down. The rears you have to press and hold. And then if you want, there's the child lock for the windows right up here. It's all pretty straightforward.
Awesome. And how do you adjust your seat in this car?
It's all manual in all trims of this first gen Bolt. Moving forward and back, there's a little handle right here, and you can just move it. And there are two levers on the side. One of them moves the seat up and down. One of them moves the backrest, reclining or inclining.
Nice. So fairly standard manual seats.
Yep, very straightforward. So one of my favorite things about the Bolt is how straightforward the climate controls are. It sounds like a small thing, but it's really nice to have just all these knobs, all these buttons that are really, really straightforward. You can change the temperature right here and press auto if that's the way you like, or you can just manually adjust the fan speed. Max defroster for the front, you've got the rear, and you can decide where you want the air coming out here. Finally, up here you have the heat and AC button, so if you just want the fan, you can turn that off. Again, there's recirculating air here, and if you wanted to turn everything off, no fan at all, you just press that. There's heated seats on both sides, and something to keep in mind is this bottom bar is always there. No matter where you go on the screen, this bottom bar will always have that information. Another really nice thing about the Premier Bolt, and if you spec this option, heated steering wheel right here, just this button right here, and that's it. Which now brings us on to our driver's display right in front of us. So in the middle, we've got our speed, just in miles per hour, and below that is a lot of the infotainment stuff. Right now it's showing us what radio we have. The left side has our battery status, so we can see the green bars, how far they are. It says we are just above half, and it has a predicted range, which says 99 miles. Don't take that for its word. It's a dynamic range, and it depends on how you're driving, where you're driving. So if you're just driving around town, going slow, going easy, it might have a very high predicted range, but if you're driving through the mountains, going really fast, it might be a lot lower. So keep in mind, it's more of a guess than a hard set number. The last thing over on the right is our power meter. You can see right now it says 2 kilowatts. That means overall the car is using 2 kilowatts of power. And it'll tell you if you're using power or regenerating power, which happens when you're braking. Okay, so now we're going to go into our energy settings, which we just press the energy button. First, we can check out the flow, which just shows us where energy from the battery is going. If we're charging, it'll show us that. If we're moving, it'll show us that it's happening. Right now, not much is happening. We can go back and check out the information. It shows us how our power has been used. So currently, 72% of our power since our last full charge has been for driving. 23% is our climate, and that's actually a pretty high number, but it is winter and it's pretty cold out. It's been cold for the past week. The last thing is battery conditioning, which is about 5%. And that's just the car keeping the battery at a warm temperature. Batteries like to be warm, so they use a little bit of energy to make sure they're in an operable temperature. So now we're in the Bolt, we're ready to get driving, and we can take a look at our shifter. It's fairly straightforward. So the park button right here is how you put into park. If you want to go into drive, you just press this button. It's over here on the left side close to you, so you just press it with your thumb and then pull it back, and that puts you into drive. If you wanted to go into neutral, you press the button and push it and hold it forward. To go into reverse, you push forward and go left. So we're going to go back into drive, and this will be a drive mode that's fairly similar to most gas cars. You know, just typical driving. I don't need to explain that. And we can get going. We can see where my hands are on the wheel. On my right side right here, I've got some volume knobs. And on the left side, I've got a little paddle which controls the regenerative braking, which is something that's unique to electric vehicles. So let's get started first just in drive and see what it's like. We're just moving, took my foot off the brake and moves around like a normal car. Press the brake and you can see on the flow diagram, energy is going to the motor and the front wheels. This is just very, very typical driving, not too different from anything you would expect from a normal gas car. I guess one thing that is notable with every electric vehicle is that it's pretty responsive. The moment you touch the pedal, it will respond. So no need to wait for the engine to respond or transmissions to shift. It's just immediate. So what happens when you're in drive and you start braking is you start to use regenerative braking. Now, you're not using the normal brakes that you would have on a regular gas car, but you're using the electric motor to put energy back into the battery. So if we look at the flow diagram, it's going to the wheels, and if I let off, now it's going back into the battery. And when I press the brake, it continues regenerating. So now we've seen what drive is like. We can see there's also an L, and that is our one pedal driving mode. So if we just pull it down once, that brings us into L mode, and that's one pedal driving, which is something common to a lot of EVs, which means you can still use the accelerator pedal and brake as normally, but when you let off of the accelerator, it will start to brake for you, so you don't have to touch the brake. And when it's doing this, it is only using the motor to brake, not using the brakes, so you're putting all that energy back into the battery. So here we are just moving along, and if I take my foot off the gas or accelerator, it slows us down fairly aggressively. It's something that takes a tiny bit of getting used to, but eventually you'll start to get the hang of it, and it's something that I definitely recommend everyone try and give it a shot, because it's a really efficient way to drive the car, and it's pretty nice. You just are using one pedal the entire time. So let's say you're getting comfortable with the Bolt and you've got your one pedal drive mode all figured out, and let's say you get to a scenario. One thing first is the brake is always there. Use it if you need to, always. But let's say you're in a scenario where, let's say you're going kind of a little bit fast and you see a red light coming up and you need to slow down, but you need to slow down a little bit faster than your normal regenerative braking. What you can do is use that paddle that I showed you before. It's on the left side, right by your hand, and when you press that down, it will give you the maximum regeneration possible. So I'll get up a little bit of speed, and once I pull the paddle and off the brake, it gives the maximum regenerative brakes, which is fairly aggressive, and it usually does pretty much everything you need to do. Again, in any scenario, you can always use the brake, and if you need to, use it, always. So, let's say you want to do a little bit of sporty driving with the Bolt. Well, there's an option for that. If you look down here, we've got a sport mode. I'm going to turn that on. We also have our standard traction control mode, but I'm not going to mess with that right now. So this is actually a fairly powerful car. It's a little over 200 horsepower, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it has all that power available immediately. So something to be aware of: if you're driving very, very fast, you floor it from a stop, you might feel a little bit of what's called torque steer, basically the car trying to turn itself one way or another. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to floor it from a stop. And there was a little bit of a pull to the right, but nothing too serious. You just have to be aware of it. So we're about to charge, but I wanted to show you guys something first. Let's go into our energy settings and go into the energy settings. from there, we have a lot of different options. One of the things that I really wanted to talk about is Hilltop Reserve, which is a funny way to say it, but it's basically just a limitation on how high you charge up the battery. Most batteries don't like to be charged to 100% all the time, so this gives you an option to charge it up to, in this case, 87%, and it'll just stop charging right there. So right now we have it on, which is good. We don't really need to use the full battery when we're around town, so I'll save it and keep it at 87% with the Hilltop Reserve on. There's a few other options here as well. When we turn the car off, we can get like a little pop-up that tells us how we're using our energy. We can change what happens when we plug in. So right now I've got some horn chirps going on. You can turn on a setting so that you have the alarm go off if someone takes out the charging cord while your car is locked. So if you're ever worried about someone unplugging your car, that's an option for you. And again, it'll tell you if you're losing power. And let's go back. And I also wanted to show you guys some info about the charging. So this is the charging screen. If you're charging at home, this is the way that you would set your limits. So how high you want to charge, when you want to start and stop charging. And I think we can get into that in another video. But for now, let's take a look how we can plug in just to a charger. Okay, so here we are, we're in a parking garage and we're gonna show you charging. Right now I have just above 50% battery, so I don't really need to charge. But so you guys know, when you guys are at about 15% state of charge, the green bars turn orange. A little bit, you start losing power, and that's normal. It's to be expected. It will tell you this. And eventually your range estimate will go away and it'll just say low. But you'll hopefully be able to plug in before that happens. So while we plug in, the charging port is just on the front left of this vehicle. So we're gonna head in and pull straight into the charger right here. So to get started with charging, we're gonna open up our charge port cover, which is right here. You just press it. This round part is for slow charging. That's what we're gonna be using today. If we were doing DC fast charging, we'd open up this orange flap and access these larger pins, and that's if we're using something like Electrify America, EVgo, something like that, where we get really fast charging. But today we're just doing a regular standard charger. You'll find these around hotels, restaurants, parking garages like we're in here. So I've already gone ahead and activated this charger, which we'll show you how to do in another video. But you simply just take the charger and put it right in. And that's it. You'll hear the car make a few sounds, and you'll see over here a little light that turns on, and it starts flashing when it tells you you're charging. A nice little tip is the flashes indicate how much charge there is. So if you're under 25% charge, it'll only flash once. If you're 25 to 50%, it'll flash twice. 50 to 75%, 3 times. 75 to 100, 4 times. And then once it's fully charged, it'll just be a solid light. So that way, you can just take a glance at your car and see how the charge is going along.
Awesome, and it's good charging etiquette if that's, let's say, solid, right? You're fully charged. At that point, unplug, park somewhere else.
Yes, of course. Once you're done charging, please be sure to unplug, especially if you're in a public charger. Now we're done charging, so first we're gonna unlock the car, which makes sure that this charge port is unlocked and we can remove the charger. You're just gonna grab it normally and press this button down and pull it straight out. And that's it. Put it back into the charger and close up the charging port. And that's it.
All right, well, thanks so much to Ryan for kind of showing us around his bolt. Like I said earlier in the video, this bolt really applies to all bolts, even if yours is the EUV, looks a little bit different than this. Functionality-wise, it's the same. There's one thing I should mention. Ryan's 2017 bolt does not have Super Cruise. Super Cruise is General Motors' term for their very advanced autonomous kind of adaptive driver assistance system that works on pre-mapped highways. We're gonna have a full video covering Super Cruise and how that works on every car available with Super Cruise in the future. We'll link it in the description when it's up. In the meantime, what to know in this bolt is that it has very standard cruise control as you'd expect from any other vehicle. There were bolts later on offered with features like adaptive cruise control, but we can't demonstrate that here. That Super Cruise video is coming. Regardless of that though, the bolt is a really high-tech, compelling, super full of range, efficient car, and I think you can't go wrong with it. So I hope this video helped kind of give you a guide of how to use the bolt, how to charge it, how to just drive it in general, get used to concepts with EVs like regenerative braking that Ryan explained really well. There's one more thing I want to add on with the bolt. This car is capable of peak charging speeds of 60 kilowatts. We showed you how to charge it. Now, if you show up to a station, let's say it's Electrify America, and they have 150 kilowatt or 350, you know, a big number like that, fast chargers, see if there's lower power chargers around, especially if it's a station that gets busy, because since this car can't leverage the really fast charging, it's best to leave those spots open to the you know, newer kind of electric cars that can. If you have no other options, of course, you can take those, but that's just kind of my note on etiquette. But yeah, the Chevy Bolt, fantastic vehicle. Ryan has good taste driving this one around. He's kept it in good condition, and congratulations to you on your Bolt experience. Thanks so much for watching. Out of Spec Guide.